This was officially a mistake. Why do I do this? Why do I do this? Hi everybody, welcome back to Karen Puzzles. Today we're doing a puzzle that I'm so excited about. You might remember I showed this in a haul like 2 months ago, and it's finally the day that I'm gonna do the American Girl mystery puzzles. But before I get into it, I just wanted to tell you that December 1st, that's like 2 days from now, that is the last day that you can buy merch in my shop and have it guaranteed to be delivered by Christmas. I have 4 things available in the shop, perfect for puzzlers anywhere. There is a new women's cut t-shirt and a new sticker, and with everything like happening in the world these days, it's just better to get your orders in early to make sure that you can get them delivered by the holidays if it's meant to be a gift. So on DFTVA, which is the website where I sell the products, December 1st is the domestic deadline to guarantee that your products will arrive by Christmas. And I mean, if you procrastinate and you get them a little later than that, hopefully, you know, it'll still be fine, but I just wanted to let you know. So back to the puzzle. As I said, these are the American Girl mystery puzzles. These came out in 2005, so I'm not gonna call them vintage because I was a teenager in 2005 and that would make me feel really old. So when these came out, I would have been 14 and my sister was 16. So we would have like just outgrown American Girl at that point. So we never had these as a kid. I'm very excited to go back and revisit them now. Oh my God, first there was a motorcycle, now there's an airplane. Can I just get through this intro? That'd be great. Thank you. So the last video I put up on this channel was the Ravensburger escape room puzzle, and if you remember, I had a little bit of trouble with that. Why are there so many numbers? So I'm hopeful that these will be a little bit easier and we will be able to solve all of the mysteries, you know, considering that they are made for 12-year-olds. So what is in here are 4 300-piece puzzles. Now, because I'm me, of course, I'm going to mix them all together. I bought these on eBay and the package wasn't sealed, but each individual bag looks like it's still originally sealed, so I'm hopeful that all of the pieces are here. There's also a little booklet with all of the mysteries. However, I read through all of the stories and it seems like you really do need to, I mean, obviously, like, look at the picture on the puzzle to be able to solve them. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do the puzzles first, then I'm gonna tell you all the stories, and one by one, we'll solve each mystery. Sound good? Sound like a plan? Let's get into it. All right, so as always, we can start by taking a look at the box. You can see that this has 4 different mysteries, 4 puzzles with these 4 of the girls. They actually have glow-in-the-dark clues, and I'm not actually sure how I'm going to see the glow-in-the-dark clues in a brightly lit studio, but we'll figure that out when we get to it. Here we can see what's on the sides. You know, pretty simple, pretty standard. And then here is the back. And I do not know if these are the pictures that we'll be making or not. I mean, I assume they probably are. I don't know where else they would have gotten these illustrations, but who knows? You know, we'll find out in a minute. So if we open it up, you can see that we have the booklet. And as I said, once I have the puzzles together, I'll go through and tell you all of the stories. And then we can see that they have each different puzzle packaged separately. And they have different colors on the backs of the pieces. So obviously I'll have to flip everything over so that that doesn't give away for me which piece goes in which puzzle. Oh boy. My gosh, the same thing is happening as what happened when I did when I mixed all 10 of the same puzzle together. Since these are made for like kids and younger people, the pieces are so big, so it's such a huge pile of pieces. So let's take a look at one of the pieces. I'm actually really impressed. These are really good quality. You can see that the front is very shiny and very glossy, and the back has this nice color on it, which, as I said, it's a different color for each separate puzzle. It looks like we have all of the standard piece shapes, and it looks like there's a fair amount of variation in all of the different ins and outs. So yeah, I'm looking forward to putting these together. Hi everybody, Karen from the future here. I just wanted to interject and say that the more I worked on these puzzles, the more familiar the pieces felt, and I realized that they're actually made by the same manufacturer that makes Gallison puzzles, or at least the Gray Melon puzzles that are made by Gallison. You can tell from how shiny the front is. I mean, it's exactly the same between them, and then the back has the same finish, and it's also the same manufacturer that makes Jiggy puzzles, and you can tell because there's a very slight like indent on the back of the puzzle pieces, and I guess I'm realizing that there are only so many puzzle manufacturers in the world, so the more puzzles I do, the more they're all gonna overlap. But if you've done any Gallison or Jiggy puzzles, this is another one in that same family. So as always, just like with any puzzle, I'm gonna start by separating out all of the edges and turning over all of the inside pieces so that the backing doesn't give me any more clues, and then I'll be back. Because I have so much that I want to say about American Girl, so we're gonna talk while I work. All right, I just separated out all of the edges. There's actually like a higher ratio of edges to inside pieces because it is 4 separate puzzles. It's as if I have all of the edges from a 1200 piece puzzle plus 2 horizontal and 2 vertical lines going down the middle. Now, one thing I did not think about is whether they're all gonna fit on my table. I don't think they will. I think we're gonna have some overlapping situations happening. Also, I definitely see a few different colors on the inside. Like there's a lot of pink. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be Samantha because she wears pink. But these edges are like a whole lot of black and a whole lot of gray, so it might take me a little while to get going. But I just got my first 2 pieces correct, which if you know, that's my little superstition that means good luck for the rest of the puzzle. So just in case any of you are not people who grew up with American Girl, I figured I would just give you a little overview so you know like who we're talking about. So first, historically, is Kaya. She is the Native American girl from maybe the 1800s? No, it was probably earlier than that. I'll pop the year on screen. And I remember reading about how American Girl did tons of research into the Native American culture that she's a part of and the tribes, and really tried to make it as historically correct and inclusive of the actual culture as possible, which I think is amazing. Who else do we have? Okay, next historically would be Samantha. So we're doing a big jump here. I think she's from 1906, I want to say. And Samantha is the rich girl. So she was like the doll that was a status symbol that everyone wanted to have. But her stories were very feminist. I remember I think her main story was about how she wanted to, she met this girl who worked in her house, I believe, who they then became friends. And then there was this whole thing about child labor laws. I don't remember the entire story, but that part of history. So then we have Kit, and she was from the Great Depression. To be honest, they added Kit right as I was starting to outgrow American Girl, so I'm not too familiar with her stories. I don't know if I ever read her books. And then the 4th one is Molly, and she grew up during World War II, so a lot of her stories were about like rationing and what life was like on the home front while the war was going on. And she was the doll that my sister had. And I think I mentioned this in the video that I posted about another American Girl puzzle. I posted that like, I don't know, a year and a half ago, so you might not have seen it, but I'll link it below if you haven't. Basically, my sister was always very possessive of her, you know, nice things, and I will say that in all almost 30 years of my life, I don't think I have once been allowed to touch or pick up this American Girl doll. Oh boy, okay, so I just finished all of these like white and gray pieces, and now all of the rest of the pieces look basically the same. It's just a whole lot of brown and tan. So this might be a little more difficult than I had initially expected. To be fair, it would not be this difficult if I had left the puzzles unmixed, but that would not make for a good video, would it? So actually, before we move on, going back to the dolls that we owned, I will confess that I never actually owned an American Girl doll. I read the books, I'm familiar with all of the stories, but the doll that I had was actually a Magic Attic Club doll. I had the one named Heather. This is a company that's long since gone out of business, but it was about the same size of doll. It just didn't have the historical part. Their stories were that they had a neighbor who had this magic attic with a trunk full of like basically costumes, and they would put on a costume and then look in this magic mirror and get transported into the world of that costume, and then there would be like problems to solve. But anyway, where I was going with that is that I don't know if this was deliberate on the part of my parents, but the two dolls were like just barely differently sized enough that you couldn't really exchange the clothes between them. So I think that that led to a lot fewer fights between my sister and I than there might have been otherwise. But I mean, my family gave those two companies so much business. We had so much doll stuff. I remember like organizing my doll's wardrobe, and I had like plastic boxes just full of shoes. She had more shoes than I did. All right, I think I need to just take a break from talking to concentrate on these edges because this is getting a little difficult. So I will be back once I have finished all of the edges. Oh my god, you guys, doing all of those edges was so hard because they're so dark, and here's what I realized. I think all four of the puzzles have the same cut, or at least some of the same like designs between the pieces. You can see it in the footage that I ended up with almost like spirals because I had some of the pieces wrong, and so some of these were like, you know, I had too many pieces in one edge and not enough in another edge, but I sorted it out, I figured it out, I finished the edges. Hopefully, now that I'm doing the middles, they'll be a little bit more different than the edges are. You can see there's just a whole lot of darkness on the edge, but in the middle, like everyone's wearing different colors, hopefully, so yeah, that's what I'm gonna work on this afternoon. Also, just the fact that they're so glossy made it a lot more difficult. Here, you can see it up there now. Like, when I'm looking at it at an angle, like I have to do so that my head isn't constantly blocking the shot, like I just can't see anything that is happening on the pieces. Which is so fun when you're working on 4 puzzles that all can like interchange with each other. All right, everybody, I've started working on the middle. I think I'm making some good progress. I mean, each individual puzzle is only 300 pieces, so if I hadn't mixed them, like, I'm sure I'd be done by now. But as I suspected, the middles are like all have enough unique elements that I can at least do like the bulk of it fairly easily. I think some of these like dark pieces towards the end will get a little tricky. But as I work, I just thought I would, you know, talk. That's why I'm here on YouTube. So one of the reasons why I love American Girl so much is because they just did such a good job at teaching history in a way that was accessible to young girls and young women, and teaching history through the stories of young girls and young women. You know, unfortunately, a lot of history is not told from the perspective of, number one, women, and number two, especially younger women. And so what American Girl did so well is that they, I mean, yes, like the dolls were, you know, another way to make money, but they kind of made the stories more accessible because you had the books, which at the end of all the books was always like a little like fact-checking section where it kind of gave more context to the actual history that they were talking about. And then by, you know, getting the dolls and being able to play with these characters in like a 3D space and make up your own stories for them, it really placed a lot of, you know, girls into the stories that they were learning. But these days, you know, it's a lot more of the American Girl of today and, you know, all the things that is more like, not really historical, but things that girls are going through today, which is still valuable and important, don't get me wrong. But I think the original like aim of the company was just like really cool, and I'm really glad that I grew up at the right time to be able to experience it. But anyway, one last thing that I wanted to talk about is the reason why I currently feel extremely old, and that is because history has caught up with my life. Not fully, because I was not born in the 80s, I was actually born in 1990, but they have an American Girl doll now, like a historical one, who is from the 80s. And she literally comes with a miniature Molly doll, because Molly was first released in 1980 something, and so now the American Girl doll has a miniature original American Girl doll. So, you know, just making me feel a little old over here. Anyway, I think that's about all I have to say about American Girl. I'm gonna get back to my puzzle properly, and then once I finish all of them, we can solve some mysteries. Oh my god, you guys, this is taking literally all day. It is 4 p.m. already. I've been working on it for so many hours. For puzzles that are marketed at, you know, 12-year-old girls, they didn't pick the most colorful images. I mean, obviously I have not made it easier on myself by layering them without like finishing the one underneath. I am just gonna power through and try to finish them up today, but here's what I'm gonna do. For some reason, I decided to try doing it without looking at the pictures, but pretty sure I'm just gonna have to look at the pictures because all of this like brown all around all of them is just, you know, like I can't even tell what's what. So I'm just gonna look and I'm gonna finish it up, and then tomorrow we will solve the mysteries. Really quick though, here's something else that I noticed. Literally all of these puzzle cuts are exactly the same. Look at these, they're layered on top of each other, and you can't even tell because the puzzles are the exact same cut. You guys, this was officially a mistake. I did not realize for 300-piece puzzles how hard they would be. Part of the issue is that the pieces are just so shiny that I can't even see what's happening on them because so much of this puzzle is so dark. I don't know. Why did I do this? Why couldn't I have just done 4 300-piece puzzles? I would have been done hours ago. Also, since my table is not big enough, I'm layering them, but the one underneath is not finished, so I'm gonna have to finish the one on top and then swap them, and this is just a mess. I'm doing this totally wrong. I apologize to everyone who has to watch at home and yell at their screen. I also apologize to myself. Why do I do this? Why do I do this? Oh my god, it is 5:30 and I just finished the entirety of the first puzzle that's finished. Also, you can see that since these line up perfectly, I'm just fully cheating and using the shape of the finished puzzle to find the shape of the piece I'm looking for. So, with these, theoretically it could be any piece that I have left, but I know that it's going to be this shape of piece, so that eliminates a lot of the pieces that are left. So that's helping it go faster as well. Alright everybody, so I started working on this at about 10:30 this morning. It is 6:10 and I only just finished. I took a 15-minute break for lunch and it's the only break I've taken. So, you can do the math. But here we are, they're finished. I am so tired. I'm not solving the mysteries tonight, but I'll be back tomorrow to see what we're doing with these. These were so hard. How was this made for children? All right, everybody, it is a brand new day and it is time to solve the mysteries. I even brought out my little magnifying glass. I don't think I'm gonna need this to solve these mysteries, but it's a fun prop. It makes me feel like a detective. Anyway, I took a little glance at these already, and I don't think the mysteries will be very hard to solve. And I don't think that's entirely the fault of American Girl. I mean, you'll see once I actually get there. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's just start with Kit, since she has the first mystery in the book. I'm not gonna read you the entire thing because it's 3 pages long, but if you wanna read the entire booklet, I took photos of it, so I'll post that right down below. And just to be clear, this is no longer sold officially by American Girl, so I think it's fine to be giving away the entire thing at this point. Also, sorry, one more disclaimer before I get into Kit's story. I am going to be using the word hobo because that is what is used in the story. And when they use that word, they are referring to a very specific group of people and cultural thing that happened during the Great Depression. I am not using that word to refer to all homeless people. I think that can be kind of an offensive word these days, so we're using it in purely a historical context. Homelessness is a very complicated problem and it is still very much an issue today, so I'm not making light of that. I just wanted to make sure that you understood that before I get into the story. Okay, so what's happening? Kit is following along after her friend Sterling. They are at the zoo after closing, which actually sounds so fun. What a perfect start to an adventure. There's all this explanation about why they're allowed to be there. Nobody cares. So they're getting a behind the scenes tour from Max, who works there, but he has taken off running when he spotted a shadowy figure move through the bushes towards the monkey house. He says to stay there. Of course, the two of them don't stay there. Okay, so there's somebody named Will who has told the friend that recently there have been like mischief makers and pickpockets getting into the zoo. Until recently, Will had been a hobo and he told stories of riding the rails and living in hobo jungles. And he had showed them hobo code, which was a language of symbols hobos drew on fences and sidewalks to tell each other what to expect in a new place. Okay, so they go inside the monkey house and oh my god, and then somebody's in the monkey house. And then the friend is like, Kit, come back. It could be an intruder. It could be dangerous, because Kit is like walking up to this guy and she's like, it's not the intruder, it's our friend Will. Will, Sterling asked, peering around the column. Where? Did you see him? No, Kit answered, kneeling down. I saw this. What did Kit see? So here's what's happening when you look at the puzzle. The answer is meant to glow in the dark, but the ink that they used, like the glow in the dark ink, I guess maybe in the last 15 years, something has chemically like changed in it because it doesn't need to glow in the dark. Like you can just see it, it's right there. So I did actually grab a black light, which does help things glow in the dark. And when I like pass it over the puzzle, you can see that what she saw on the floor was a square with a circle in it that says hobo code. So, I mean, clearly she saw, it was referenced earlier, she saw the hobo code on the floor, and so she was like, it's Will, I guess. I mean, I guess it still could have been anyone, but for the purpose of this story, we'll just go with it. And you know, I ran my black light all the way over the rest of the puzzle. There's like nothing else to see. It's really just that. So I guess here's my problem with these puzzles then, because spoiler alert, the same thing happened with literally all of them. The way that the instructions are written on the box, it says, when you've completed the puzzle, turn off the lights and see the clues glow in the dark. That makes me think that what glows in the dark is going to be a clue to the final answer that you still have to figure out. But like there's nothing to figure out. They literally write in text on the puzzle like what the answer is. And yes, I know that this was made for kids, but you know, kids can solve mysteries. You don't need to like literally write out in like Times New Roman on the puzzle what the answer is. Like if it was just the square here, then maybe you would have to like figure out that that is the code that was referenced earlier. So if I turn to the back and let's just read what the answer is. Kit saw the hobo code for danger on the ground. Sterling and Will were the only other people who knew the code. Since Sterling was with Kit, she knew Will had left the message and was the shadowy figure on the other side of the monkey house. Okay, more problems here. Never in the story do they tell us that they're the only people who know the code. And also, never in the story do they tell us that this is the symbol that means danger. Like, there's no way that you would have been able to figure that out from the story or from what's on the puzzle. So, okay, let's move on to Molly. So what is happening with Molly? She is pedaling her bike. Fun fact, actually, just to bring it back to myself because this is my YouTube channel. I do not know how to ride a bike. I never learned. So that's something that Molly has on me. Anyway, this is another one that starts off very exciting. She and her friend Anna are on a detective mission. They're on their way to the airfield where Aunt Eleanor works for the army flying warplanes across the United States. Someone had found enemy information hidden in her plane, and now she was suspected of being a spy. What? That's so crazy. Like, what a fun adventure story. So Molly knows that her aunt is innocent and that somebody else must have like framed her. They find an old shed and the friend is like, there's a shack way back in the field. That could be the real spy's hideout, which seems a little simple, but okay, we'll go with it. Do you think someone's in there? Anna whispered nervously. Molly shook her head. I wondered that too, but the latch is hooked on the outside, so no one can be inside. So they go inside. There's no windows, it's very dusty. No one's been in here for ages, Anna says. Someone has been here, Anna, Molly replied. How do you know? What do you see? It's not what I see, it's what I don't see. What was missing from the Foot Locker's latch? So again, even without using the black light, if we just look at the puzzle, the text has become visible on the puzzle pieces, and it's literally just the word dust. And on this one, there's like, even if you look at all over, there's nowhere else that is glowing in the dark. It's literally just the word dust. So they didn't even like show you what the answer was in the picture. And there is a line, like, she looked closely at the shiny metal latch, which if you think about it, means that it's not dusty, which means that somebody has touched it recently. So that's the answer to the mystery. But again, there's like nothing to figure out. These are so much less fun than I wanted them to be. All right, moving on to Kaya. Now, looking at her puzzle, since the glow in the dark part is actually on a lighter part of the puzzle, I feel like this one is actually the most successful of all four of them. Because while I was putting it together, I didn't even notice that there was like anything that was gonna glow in the dark. Like, I couldn't see where the clues were. Now that I know what to look for, I can see the like slight change in the type of ink that was used, and if you run your fingers over it, you can feel that the ink feels different. But anyway, here's what her story is. So Kaya goes outside, she whistles for her dog. She realizes that the dog must have gone with a stranger who had recently shown up at their village. The stranger is named Hawkwoman, and it seems like Kaya's dog is like her only friend, which is kind of sweet. So early that morning, Hawkwoman had gone out, and now there's like a blizzard happening. And so Kaya is like, if she and the dog are wandering around in a snowstorm, they're gonna need protection from hungry predators like cougars, wolves, and packs of coyotes. So Kaya's following them, and then she sees another set of paw prints. Is it a bear? No, can't be a bear. Bears would be hibernating. So she sees that there's another paw print. It's too large. It looked like a dog's, but it was at least twice the size of her dog's. It also looked much fresher, with the claws clearly defined in the snow. Whatever had made this print had passed by here just moments before. The back of Kaya's neck prickled. Only one kind of animal could have made this print. What was it? So here's the thing with this story. They don't actually give you enough information to possibly solve the mystery by yourself. If we run our black light over it, we can see the paw print, and we can see that it says wolf. So I guess the paw print was made by a wolf. Aren't wolves still dangerous? Like, what's gonna happen to the dog? This is such an unsatisfying mystery. So here's the answer. Kaya knew the paw print had been made by a wolf. Bears were hibernating, and cougar tracks didn't show claws as this one did. The print belonged to some kind of dog-like animal, yet it was too large to be a dog or coyote. That left just one animal, a wolf. Which, again, great, now we know it's a wolf. Is the wolf gonna eat the dog? Is the wolf gonna eat this woman? Like, what a weird place to stop a story. I mean, I guess earlier they do say from hungry predators like cougars, wolves, and coyotes. She rules out cougars, and if you know that coyote paw prints are like the same size as dogs, are they? I'm just assuming they probably are. Then that only leaves wolves as the last option. But again, just like a very unsatisfying mystery. So finally, let's move on to Samantha. Samantha hurried down the cold wooden staircase. It was the middle of the night, but she had to know why Mary, their maid, was afraid to stay any longer. There had been weird things happening, and some of the residents believed it was cursed. The furnace kept breaking, there was a rat in the kitchen, somebody had painted the unlucky number 13 in blood red paint over the elevator plaque on the 12th floor. What is happening in this place? So Samantha didn't believe that there was a curse, but Mary, the maid, knew that there was. So Mary's trying to leave, Samantha's trying to get her to stay. The cellar door was open, so Mary must have gone down there. So Samantha goes down the dark stairs into the cellar. She saw a dim light at the other end of the cellar, and she started to move slowly towards it. She froze when she heard a man's voice say, "Stop, you can't leave." Samantha thinks that he's seen her, but then Mary says, "I can and I will. I don't want any more of this curse." So the furnace is clanging, she can't hear what they're saying, so Samantha is gonna try to go back upstairs, but then she hears someone coming towards her, so she crouches in the shadows, and then Mary passes her by and goes upstairs. All right, this is already like the most boring one so far. So Samantha's not gonna stay in the basement with a mysterious man. She begins to go upstairs. and then she looks down the stairwell, blah, 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 nothing's happening. She's climbing more stairs. I guess this is a very large house. And then something brushes against her. What was that? Something or someone was there. Samantha whirled around, her eyes wide with fear. What did Samantha see when she turned around? So if they had not put the answer in text on the puzzles, I think this one would have been the most successful one, because if we look at it with the black light, you can see that the answer is a cat. But the cat's eyes are actually glow in the dark as well, so those are glowing. It actually looks really creepy, and I think it's a really good effect. But they like put the answer right there. And again, there's no real way to have figured that out from what they gave you in the story. They do mention the cat earlier when they say the cook had found a rat in the kitchen, even though the manager's cat quietly roamed the cellar. But then why even mention that somebody had painted the unlucky number 13 in blood red paint in the elevator? Like, what does that have to do with anything? So I guess if like the text hadn't become visible in the last 15 years, you would have to look at the puzzle and notice that there's a cat there. But even still, it just seems too easy because there's nothing else happening in the illustration. Like, that's the only thing that you'll see. So here's my theory about what happened and why this was a product that they made. On the back of the booklet, it says, read the novels that inspired the mini mysteries. So clearly they had written this new series of books. They had gotten these illustrations made for the book covers, and then they were like, what other product can we make using everything we already have? So I guess somebody in the American Girl product development department was like, let's make jigsaw puzzles of the book covers. Oh, and let's write like trailers to the book covers as advertisements to get these girls to then buy the books. But I just don't think this was a successful product. I just have some major issues with it. Number one, none of these pictures make particularly good puzzles. You know, I guess since they were designed to be book covers, so they have a lot of empty space where the book title's gonna go. The girls only take up like a third of the puzzle, and then everything around it is just so boring to put together as a jigsaw puzzle, especially if you are a 12-year-old girl and maybe this is your first jigsaw puzzle. You're gonna think they're so boring. I wish if they were gonna do this that they had commissioned new illustrations that maybe tied in to the book cover illustrations, but were made specifically to do as a puzzle with like lots of different clues hidden and more interesting stuff happening in the background, rather than just reusing the illustrations they already had and like awkwardly adding glow-in-the-dark ink to like add an answer to a mystery. Plus, there's the whole fact that the way that they write the instructions, it seems like you need to use the glow-in-the-dark aspect as a clue to solve the mystery, when actually it turns out the part that glows in the dark is the answer to the mystery. So I could definitely see somebody, you know, not even trying to figure it out, just looking at the glow-in-the-dark clue and then not having had a chance to solve the mystery because the answer is right in front of them. So going into this, I was all set to be like, if you have a younger sibling or like a niece or a nephew who's into American Girl, get this for them on eBay. It'll be great. It'll be so fun. But at this point, I think you can skip this one. And this is actually like the opposite of the Ravensburger escape room puzzles, because that one was relatively easy to put together and then the mysteries were crazy hard. And then these were like impossible to put together and then the mysteries were literally nothing. So don't forget that December 1st is the deadline for guaranteed domestic shipping of my merch by the holidays. So if you want to give anyone some puzzle merch for Christmas, make sure you order by December 1st if you want to guarantee that it is here, or not here, there by Christmas. I need to give you a code word for watching to the very end of the video. I think it'll be maybe Samantha. Thank you for watching and always supporting my channel. It really means so much to me, and I'll be back next week with, actually, I have a very, very special puzzle that I'm gonna be doing next week, so stay tuned for that. So happy puzzling. I'll see you all in the next one.